Good evening, everyone. Tonight, October 17th, 2013, this is the WildStar News with the Debuff crew. Tonight we have myself, Steelheart. We have Mr. Creed, the XO of the Grievance Dominion Guild, and we have Soul Guardian, the guild leader for the Exile Guild. Guys, how y'all doing tonight?
Doing great.
Awesome.
Great.
Awesome. So we've had news over the last couple weeks. Obviously, last week we had Gazimov on, so we didn't really cover much of the news. So we got a little bit more news to cover tonight. First of all, before we start, y'all show off your new WildStar shirts. Let's see them.
Yeah.
There you go. That is courtesy of Tilo from GamesCon. And we'll be talking a little bit more of that because we have an announcement tonight to do with the Extra Life that Grievance Gaming is running a team in coming up November 2nd, I believe. Or 2nd or 4th. Anyway, we're running a team in it, and we have some special items up for auction. We'll discuss it later. So anyway, WildStar Wednesday yesterday, we got to see the Dominion starting area, the Arkship Destiny. What is this? What do you, Soul, or actually Creed, your Dominion, what do you think?
I think it's an awesome piece of military hardware there. Can't wait to get inside and do whatever I got to do. Go from one end to the other and then jump out the door and onto our new planet. Looking forward to it.
So what do you think of the Dominion Arkship Destiny? Obviously the Exiles aren't going to be able to afford anything like this. What do you think?
No, we definitely can't. I don't think it's even part of the military, though. I think it's actually some kind of space cruise ship. I really think it's the lap of luxury. It's kind of, it's obviously spacious. It has all the luxuries you could ever want. I mean, I'm surprised they didn't show pictures of the guys with the cucumbers over their eyes, having the mud mask. I mean, it's really, I don't know what kind of training they're going to do there. It's really kind of ridiculous. I was like, wow, these guys are so pampered. Are they even going to war? I don't know what they're doing. It's like a vacation for them.
Well, they do have a point. I think there was a picture of a juice bar and yeah. Now one of the things in this, and obviously this represents basically a tutorial. Basically, it's to represent travel time from whatever planet the Dominion, their main homeworld is, to the Nexus. So this is where players are probably going to learn the basics of playing their characters. Yeah, good idea?
It's a very good idea. It's it's going to be the way you're going to probably play the entire game. There's going to be things other than basic things that you're going to use from level 1 to cap. You'll learn other new things on the way, but that's where they're going to teach you the basics. So there's going to be probably a very similar same rotation on abilities and how to move, how to roll out of something. They're probably going to show you all that on there. It's all important. It's very important.
Now obviously, coming up in a WildStar Wednesday, we're going to see the Exile version of this. It's going to be something similar to this. Maybe not as elaborate or plush, but it's going to be
a space air balloon.
something like that. It's going to be in the same theme, and you're going to look at it and say that's an Exile ship, and it's going to look appropriately. But the inside's probably going to have a lot of the same amenities and everything like that. And this is obviously a way to let people once again train their characters in a controlled environment versus trying to learn how to play them. Well, why somebody's trying to kill them or something's trying to kill them. So in that aspect of looking at that, do you think that's good or bad, Creed? Or excuse me, Soul Guardian. My apologies.
No worries, man. I think it's very appropriate. I think it's well worth it for the player to learn the basics, because what they've been talking about since the beginning is that the combat style in this game is going to be unique than most games out there. So there's going to be that learning curve. So it's nice to have a controlled environment where they can slowly learn and get the starting package, so to speak, of what to do, get comfortable with it, and then put you into a world where you can be like, okay, now I can explore and just build upon those basics. And so I think it's very necessary for what a game that perceives itself as having a very unique and complicated combat system. It needs to start somewhere, and I think these are the building blocks of where it begins.
I agree totally. Now, one of the pictures, and we didn't download this picture, and I should have, and I apologize for that, but one of the pictures we saw was the Vigilant Church, which is really interesting because there have been some games that you have used some sort of religious worshiping or what have you. What do you think? Do you think we're going to see, for instance, prayer or meditation enter into this game, to where players are going to spend a few seconds in an altar or in meditation in a room and gain some ability? Do you think that's something we may see, Sol?
It's a possibility. I mean, this is the first time I've heard about this, with this WildStar Wednesday, and I was pretty blown away because it adds to the lore of the Dominion. But first, you thought they were just part of the Elden, and they just had this goal of just conquering the universe and taking over. Now, is it more like a religious thing they're trying to do, like trying to just pass the word of their God through everything and conquering them when people don't agree with them? So there might be a different reason why they're doing or what they are, and why they're spreading throughout the through the actual universe. So it's a different twist of things that I didn't see coming.
I agree. What about you, Creed?
Hey, I'm just in it for the buff. If I get a buff by praying, bring it on. Or if I have to kneel at an altar to get a buff that lasts an hour, that ups my ability or makes my DPS better, or whatever I may be doing, I'm all for it. If they want to include a little lore thing in it and make a story around it. I'm not much of a lore master. I don't get into the stories. I do a little bit, but there's people that probably do it a lot heavier than I do. So, hey, I played other games where you do some sort of prayer, or you do some sort of, kneeling at something, and you get a buff. Hey, give me a buff, and I'm gone.
There we go. Thank you, Dash. Dashiva, our producer behind the scenes, has found the Vigilant Church picture. It looks like at the altar, it's actually the Dominion symbol or a variation of it up there. So perhaps that means more than just a military symbol.
Yeah, it seems that way. I mean, even with the stained glass, I think it's going to be more elaborate, and I think they'll probably go into it more in the future. But I think it really is showing that Dominion have this, weird. Not only do they're already privileged and pampered already, they have this they've been gift from God pretty much now attitude. It's going to be great. Like, seriously, people, can you get their heads any bigger?
They're going to get much bigger.
Right.
There's a kind of a Knights of the Templar symbol on the wall right there, and we all know what those guys can do in masses. So, yeah. Good
point. All right, so moving on, one of the other pictures, and this would be like the X-Men's Danger Room, or in Star Trek, the holodeck. This is the training room aboard the Arkship Destiny. This is the room where you are going to learn how to play your characters, and obviously you can see the holograms in there, so you're fighting holograms. That looks really interesting, Creed. It looks like a way to learn about the tells as far as combat.
That's what it looks like to me. It looks like there's some kind of ability going off now. It looks like maybe somebody practicing a little practicing on multiple mobs there, having to deal with more than one target at one time. So, which is, from what I've seen, is we're going to be doing that a lot. Yeah, but it looks interesting. Looks very interesting.
It really does.
I find it's interesting, and I like the idea that everything about this game says, technology, space, and I just think this really fits into the theme of it, and I think it's a great way to start the game, to really sink your teeth into the game as you start. I think it's great. And I do kind of laugh, though, because in the background of that picture, you see like this Exile Shanty or something in the background. I'm like, wow, that hologram is like really spot on, apparently. But yeah, it's cool. I can't wait.
Most definitely. All right, so last week they talked a little bit about cross-realm communication and cross-realm play. Now, a lot of games have been doing variations of this for a while. Sony has their whole cross-game communication to where if I'm playing EverQuest 2, I can talk to somebody in EverQuest 1 or even PlanetSide. Their whole platform's cross-game communication. Obviously, I've never tried. You could probably cross-server communication too. So not only are you going to be able to chat with people from other servers, which are realms is what they're calling them, you're going to be able to group with them kind of a la Guild Wars 2 guesting system or something. Beneficial. I mean, this is one of those arguments people say, well, it takes away from the server community or it enhances your playing experience. Soul?
I can understand that where people want to like, okay, we're on this server or we're on the shard, whatever you want to call it. And that's like our extended family. And you get used to the people on it. You know who the good guys, the bad guys, and how each person will play, or a guild. But I think the cross-realm communication is just interesting because hopefully, one, I can taunt canon, and two, hopefully, it just shows that they're aiming for the longevity of the game. And I think that is going to help because no matter what, and no matter what time, you'll be able to find a group. And even though it might not be the people on your actual server, you'll be able to play with them. You can be friends with them, and then you can go from there if you want. You can build something from it. And I think that'd be really interesting. And you could even have one guild over different servers and still communicating with each other. So it just opens up the game, I think.
Yeah, I see that. What about you, Creed?
I'm a little in the middle. The communication, I'm all for. Talking with people in other games and what have you, and just staying in contact. However, I've never been a huge fan of grouping with people on other shards. It just seemed like the one thing in common that happens is that knowing that there is no accountability on their end, bad things do happen, and then they leave, and there's just no accountability. They can just keep going along and jumping server to server or shard to shard wherever they're being invited to or wherever they're going to do whatever, and they keep pulling whatever they want to pull. But I mean, yes, there are good people. It does open up the game. I fully agree with that. And you can even probably say, hey, Grievance is over here, and they may re-roll new characters and join our guild. That would be awesome. But I've just never really overall been a fan of grouping with people in other realms or shards, and because I've seen, I hate to say it like this, but more bad than good. But overall, the communication thing in other games on different realms, I'm totally for that. That's cool stuff.
Now, if you're going to be able to do that, do you foresee server transfers, or will there just not be a need for it? I mean, if you group with somebody, let's say you have 4 members from your guild, or 5 or 6. I don't know how big the groups are in WildStar, but let's just say they're 5, standard 5 they use nowadays. So if you have 4 members of your guild and you say, okay, let's do the LFG. It's a weird time. We don't have a lot of people on, and somebody guessed, and they say, man, y'all are nice people. All of y'all are from Grievance, your guild, and I want to join it, but I'm from this server over here or this realm over here. Do you foresee the ability of server transfers right off the bat, or is this just going to be a convenience and server transfers not necessary?
I see it happening. I don't see it happening immediately. I think we really need to let the game settle in, let everyone kind of get their footing, and then if you want to switch servers, then maybe, I don't know, that could be another cred thing, maybe it's, or pay a fee or whatever. I don't know. I don't think it'll happen immediately though.
That's a very good thing. So, Soul, creds for server transfer. What you think?
You know, I think this is the kind of thing that's keeping people in separate servers. I think that's the reason I think when the launch comes out, they'll definitely not be able to like switch servers easily. Maybe later on pay something, but honestly, I think when you can talk to people across servers, I think they want that communication, but I don't think they want everyone to jump ship. You know, because that way it's going to really have this imbalance with servers. You just never know. Because you know how it is. There's some guilds that just get really big and will just take everyone, and people start flocking to that one server. And so then there'll be another server that'll be light. And so I just think that would really kind of mess up because then eventually it all turn into one server anyways. You know what I mean? So I think the communication is their goal so that you can communicate with the other people, but you don't have to join because you can always party with them whenever you want. So it has that ability where you don't need to actually jump into their server.
Yeah, interesting.
I hope that Carbine is very careful on the number of servers they make when the game launches. That seems to be a critical thing when the game first launches. When we see our login button for the first time and we see the list of servers, a lot of games have made this mistake. So I just hope they're very careful about the number of servers they're going to allow for us to choose from.
Well, and as players, we're our own worst enemies. We get in there, there's a queue, and it's like, oh, we need more servers. We need more servers. So in the past, and EverQuest 2 is a prime example of this when they launched. In the past, they'd just add 2 new servers a day, and people would go there, and they'd be full. But after about 2 months, 3 months, everything starts to even out a little bit. And then those servers that were added, most of the time, the new ones, the population just goes
straight down the toilet. Yep.
And inevitably we see, and it always takes too long. They always wait too long to do this, whatever the game. But inevitably we see server merges to where they say, oh, okay, we're going to merge the servers into this. But by that time, those servers they're merging into the bigger servers, they're pretty much dead.
Yeah, and the sad thing is that when people hear like, oh, it's a server merge, they're like, oh, the game's doing horribly, I'm going to go jump to a different game. And they just think the population's not there. They don't realize the advantages they can actually give them. But, I just think, though, that God, I'm losing my train of thought here. But, like, oh, my God.
I hate when that happens.
I don't think, I really like the Terra system. When you get in the game and there was like 3 or 4 shards, and that was it. But when you got in, there was different levels to that. So if you got in and like, it was just busy. You couldn't even find a mob to do a quest. Everyone's running around. It was just, crazy. There was 1 through 7 levels of that one shard. So you could jump into another one and be like, oh, okay, this one's lighter. This one's medium or whatever. So that was a good way of that first month of everyone, totally just zerging the shard. And, then with a bad queue and everyone's like, oh, God, it's a queue. I don't want to wait for this. So there's ways of setting it up initially that won't freak everyone out and that people will be happy from day one, and that's what I'm hoping for.
Perhaps they'll do something like Defiance did, to where based on the area of the map you're in, it just creates almost like instances of that area that you never see the actual zone wall, so to speak. I remember we'd run into this one area in Defiance and start playing, and when we did, we'd run in through like a doorway or something, and there might be a 25-person cap in that doorway for that one particular area. So anybody who ran through that doorway, it wasn't like a zone wall or a loading screen or anything like that. It was just kind of like they were shooting them into different instances of the same thing. You just didn't ever realize you were in an instance. When you came back out, you were in the big world.
Yeah, it would be great. I mean, that's the kind of thing, those are what betas are for. You bring in the people, you try it out, you see what it works, you up the capacity, and you go from there. I mean, they've already extended this, 5-6 months, to revamp some things. And I think if they take the time and do the kind of Blizzard ideal where it's like, they're going to release it when it's ready, they should take the time in beta, especially in an open beta, bring the people in, test out their capabilities, and that is what, so day one we jump in, it'll be like, oh, this is actually running smooth. Perfect.
Like I said, it's a very critical thing. The server thing there's going to be a very fine point that they're going to have to pay attention to. And like Sol said, they need to test, yep, and see what the maximum could be and what's the minimum, and just find the medium in that. Don't don't make 50 servers and and then they all fill up, and like you said, Steele, 2 months later, you log back in and 45 of them are gone because there were nobody on them. They really need to pay attention to that. I hope they do, and I think they will.
Now, there were a couple more interesting things that came out last week concerning the cross-realm stuff, and one of them is they're limiting it to instances only. So I'm gonna go on the assumption that that's basically, for lack of a better term, dungeons and raid zones, which would enforce the LFG finder, so to speak. Now, one interesting thing is item trade limitations. If you loot something, you're not going to be able to trade it. So, and if you come from another server, say you have a friend on another server, and they have something really cool like this big blaster, that just one-shots everything, they're not going to be able to give it to you. And they said that's to keep the server economy for each server where it needs to be. What do y'all think of that? Creed?
Again, just to back up a little bit, the cross-realm thing, I'm not a huge fan over, because there it does introduce new problems. I guess if you have people that are from another shard in your group and you want to give them something, you have the typical, 30 minutes, 45 minutes, or an hour, or whatever it is that they like to do. If you're going to trade something to somebody, it's probably going to be only the people that were in your group. Just trade it to them or whatever, and once you leave that instance, once you leave your shard, or if you were in somebody else's shard, that's it. There was no more trading. That's it. Do it or you don't do it. That's the only way I know to really deal with it.
Yeah,
I see that.
I think, especially cross-server trades shouldn't happen, cross-server trades. And I think if you do get something from a different shard, you should be able to just keep it and not trade it. Because
exactly,
as we know, every server levels at its own pace, and it has its own pace. And so, sometimes everyone will level quickly and get that top gear, rating gear and stuff. And so each market is going to be different. And so every shard is going to be different. And why would you want to have, kind of a slower kind of tier that has one or two people going to other shards, bringing back huge things and just ruining the market? I just think that if it's, every shard's got its pace, they stick with it. Hey, if you want to get some good gear and you've leveled up that fast, you can still get it, but you just can't get it and all of a sudden sell it for, a bajillion dollars and totally, right. No one can ever touch you again. It's come on. No, you got it. It looks pretty. And, we're MMO players. It's all about how it looks. So you should just be happy right there.
All right, moving on. I was reading, as a matter of fact, by Gazimov, was reading an article that he had posted not long ago, within the last week and a half. And at the beginning of it, they talked a little bit about endgame. And in my words, keeping the community busy, endgame. So basically, we've all played the games that have released recently. You blow through the content in 3 to 6 months, and then everything after that is basically a grind, whether it's for badges or to get more gear, to do a raid to get badges, to get more gear, to do another raid to get badges, to get more gear. You know how it goes. They put the grind on the end of the game. And we don't know how WildStar is going to be. And that's all personal preference as well. But they listed some different things as endgame, and I'm going to read them off, and then we'll discuss each one. They listed 4 things that stood out to me. The first one being the continuing storyline. They're going to continue the storyline, I guess, the settlement of the Nexus with the ongoing conflict between the Exiles and Dominion, which is brilliant. Continue your storyline. Keep it running. Keep it going. Keep it interesting. There should always, in any MMO, there should always be a main storyline. Raiding, obviously, there's going to be 40-man raids, I think 20-man raids. So, raiding is in-game for a lot of people. War plots and battlegrounds. Veteran dungeons, which is... Let's jump to veteran dungeons, because I to me, this kind of spoke of Rift and Star Wars, to where you go through a dungeon at level 10 and it's fun, it's unique, it's new, and then at level 50 when you hit end game, you get the level 50 version of the same dungeon. Is that what we're looking at for a veteran dungeon?
That's what it sounds like to me. Or perhaps maybe they'll throw a bonus room in it, or something in that realm. I'm not sure. It's still some sort of somewhat of a vague description of something they've got big plans for. I hope they take a step farther than say, for instance, SWTOR did, where they had 3 different types of the same dungeon. I'm really wishing for something a little different. Maybe the same dungeon at different levels, but the higher tier you get, maybe a little, something different on the side, a bonus room or something like that. I'm not really sure. I'm just not sure.
Oh, come on. You're missing it. It's a veteran. So what are we the veterans of? War, right? So this whole game is about telegraphs. So can you imagine having the level 10 dungeon, which could be a great layout, could be a great bosses, whatever. But all of a sudden you kick it up to that nth level for telegraphs. Like some of the ones we've seen before, where everything's red by a little dot around one of your random guys, and you have to follow them around. I mean, they could kick it up such a high notch that it's like you need to be a veteran. You have to know your role. You have to know how to dodge. I mean, it could be really exciting. It could be like, wait, I know this. Oh, wait, I don't know this at all. Like, what is happening right now? You just make the actual raid bosses that much harder. And it'll be so much more fun because it's like, oh, man, remember we tried this the first time? We got wiped and we were only level 9 at the time. But now we're like 50 and it's still like wiping us out. Like, it's awesome. And I think it brings you back to why you started the game. And I think it would be refreshing your whole memory and going through each one, but with a different challenge. I think it's going to be amazing.
Yeah, and even more amazing if they add some extra bosses. So there you go. Maybe that's what we're looking at. Now, speaking of changing layouts, i.e. dungeons, one of the big topics of discussion, and actually me and y'all know the gentleman, Patrick, were discussing WildStar rating, because there's a lot of interesting things coming out of that. 40-man raids to begin with are just, for those of us that played EverQuest, the original, or WoW 40-man raids, we look at that and it's like, oh, wow, that's going to be interesting again. And that could be interesting, good or bad. But what really is the topic of discussion is these raid zones are supposed to change every time you go in them. They're going to alternate. You may see a boss one time, not the next, or the boss may change its tactics, then go in there. It's all supposed to be randomized to keep everybody on their feet. Patrick brought up some interesting things about keeping people interested versus actually learning how to kill a boss. So, for instance, in Star Wars, we would go in to, we'll just say, the Terror from Beyond, and we would hit him one night, hit him another night. 2 or 3 weeks later, we'd get a little further. After about a month and a half, we finally beat the boss because we learned the fight. But if the boss changed it every time, do you think people would see that as challenging? I know I would. I like a good challenge. But do you think people would see that as challenging, or are they going to get frustrated? Creed?
Oh, we're going to do both. It's going to be extremely challenging. That's what I am looking so forward to. Getting in there and wiping. We all know it's going to happen. We're all going to laugh about it. And of course, getting frustrated, that's a natural emotion from doing things over and over and over again. And it's like your head's hitting a wall. You just can't go any farther. And everyone's doing the best they can. And you get to a certain point and then everything just falls apart. And so how many times have you been frustrated in every game that you played trying to knock something down? All of us, thousands and thousands of times. So I'm looking at it as a challenge. I love the idea of things changing. That was my comment about the veteran dungeons, and the different tiers of the same place. Let it change. You go through something and there's a door that's sealed. You can't go through it. But when you get to a level 50 of the same place, that door is open. And, and so there's more stuff in there. And I'm for it. I like the challenge. Bring on the challenge.
All right, so Soul, you went raiding. You went raiding last night. All right, and y'all spent. Let's say you spent 5 or 6 hours on this big giant robot, and you came within 3% of downing this big giant robot. But then the main tank or the raid force, it was late and everybody's ready to go to bed, so got to work in the morning. So you say, okay, we got a raid scheduled tomorrow night. The instance is still open. Let's go in there and kill the boss. And you get in there, and right off the bat the next night, the boss throws an AE down, just wipes the whole raid, and everybody's like, what is this? We didn't see this the whole raid last night. Good or bad?
I think it's awesome. I mean, I know it sounds crazy, but I'm kind of that old school gamer that if I'm not frustrated, then I won't feel that excitement when I actually beat the guy. So there has to be that toughness where you're just like, even if like you get wiped with 3% left because your healer got knocked off by some small minion, you're like, man, we were this close. That was awesome. Like, come on. And everyone in the group, the guild will be like, oh, we almost had it. Come on, let's do it again. And it just gets you excited. And then if the next night you get wiped, the first punch he lays down, you're like, your jaw drops. You're like, oh, let's break it off. I guess it's prison rules tonight. Let's do it. And it's just a new twist. And I hate when you go into a guild, or not a guild, sorry, into a raid, and you're like, okay, so room number 1 is going to have this. You take care of him, and then we'll kill that, and then we'll go number 2, and this. It's like, seriously, are you going to bore me to death? Like, it becomes so mechanical. You're just like, oh, why are we trying, But if you're going to spice it up and change it up on me, bring it. Like, I'll get wiped every night, and I'll have a smile on my face.
You hit it right on the head. So, and how many times, and I know Steelheart can relate to this, is when you did, a fight so many times. I won't mention the game, but you'll know what game I'm talking about, where you said, okay, you stand there and stand on one leg and hop 3 times. You over here say the alphabet backwards and turn a circle. And, and it worked out that way. But what happened? You did it 3 or 4 or 5 more times, and you're just completely bored. And then you said, all right, guys, we're going in here again. Everybody, oh, God, again. So I don't want that. This is exactly the kind of game I want.
Yeah. I mean, we go into these games, and we always have a guild behind us. And luckily, we have Grievance. And for me, I don't want to go in there and, have our guild leader bring everyone in like little puppets and just dragging them along and just doing it, so mechanically. I just really want a guild that, 1, wants to be there, 2, they all want to do it, and they are all like paying attention. They're just not like, oh yeah, we did this, for the last 20 times this month. And 3, they can adapt and change, and they know their role well enough that we can get through it in trusting each other. And I think that's what's fun about it, because you do have to learn on the fly. You have to adjust on the fly. And through TeamSpeak, it's like, we got it, and I think that's what's part of the challenge. It just brings everyone together.
And the excitement when you finally down that boss, TeamSpeak overmodulates.
Yeah.
It does. Everybody's like, woo!
Who stands up and does the Tiger Woods? Who does that? I do. I get up from chair and I do mine.
I know my household, when I raid and we beat a boss for the first time, it'd be 2 o'clock in the morning, and I guarantee you the whole house knows it. All right, so the last part of keeping the community busy, war plots and battlegrounds. Now, we've heard a little bit here and there about PvP. How much interest do you think is going to be PvP for WildStar? So?
That's a tough one, because I think a lot. I think it does definitely have a good balance of the PvP and the PvE, but I do like the aspect of you building your own fort. It's like building your own castle and making whatever you can inside it, and then attacking someone else's little floating fortress. And I think the challenge of not only sieging their castle, but then someone else doing it to you, I think it adds an element to it, especially when you're doing it as a guild. I think people are going to be really down with that. I think it's going to be exciting.
Creed, you going to be hunting Orin?
I've played other games where you had castles and you defended them, and then you trek across this long plain with nothing around and go attack somebody else's castle. I've done a little bit of that. Every game does its own version of it. I'm excited for the way WildStar is going to do it. I'm not a big PvPer like other people. You know, some people, that's all they do. They're just addicted to it. I'm more of a PvP person, but I'm really looking forward to the PvP in this game and building a plot, guarding the plot, watching the enemy come at me, and doing what I need to do to keep them away. That's what I'm excited about.
Right. And it seems interesting. I think it's going to be great that once you hit level cap, it's like you could have a group that just wants to do raiding and want a group that just wants to do war plots. You know, you want to do. It's like at level 50, the game gets so much bigger for people that they really kind of, depending what if they're into PvP, boom, they got their whole thing right there. PvE, boom, so right there, a lot of challenges in both, and it's like. So, or if you're into the lore, you know, you could be doing all of it. Maybe everything shows you more of the lore of the whole world and the storyline. So really, it really does kind of blossom at level 50. And I think it's the end game, you know, is what have been working so much time on. Like they already worked like 2 or 3 years on it. So the content, I think, is going to really blow us away compared to a lot of games lately that we've seen where we get in, you know, you race to that last level and you get there and you're like, what do I do? You know, like it's like you hit that brick wall. You're just like, wait a minute, the wall looks like a road that keeps going, but you're just like, what? And so I think it's going to work out. I think it's going to be fun knowing that there's that waiting for us. You know, it's like going along the path to find that giant cookie at the end. It's going to be great.
I agree. The game's set up to be a very exciting game. It does look like they've put a lot of thought into it. It's going to be really, really neat. It really is. I'm looking forward to it personally. Soul, Creed, I'm sorry. I'm personally going to be in exile. But that's okay. I'll make it cheap. But we got one more thing to discuss tonight. Now, everybody knows about Extra Life. It was founded a few years ago. It's sponsored by, or to help the Children's Hospital Miracle Network. I'm sure I'm getting that all butchered. But basically, it's for a real good cause. And Grievance Gaming has a team in Extra Life this year, and we are going to game for 25 hours. 25 hours we are going to game in various different games. So we are going to have a good time, and we are going to drink a lot of coffee. So, those of you in Grievance that haven't signed up for this yet, shame on you. Go sign up for it. Tilo, as I mentioned earlier, went to Gamescom and got a lot of goodies. A lot of goodies. And some of these goodies we are going to put up and auction on the next WildStar cast. And we'll start the bid out at $50. And it'll be an open bid in the Twitch channel. Open live bid. Everybody take a look at that. An open live bid for these items. Person with the highest bid gets the items. 100% of the money gets donated to our Extra Life cause. So it'll be donated to charity. So if you're looking at these items, any question about it, one on the right is everything put together. There will actually be 2 t-shirts, not one, 2 t-shirts. Can't promise the size, but 2 t-shirts. We'll have that thing on the left right there is a hardcover notebook that you can open up, and it's just got ledger pages basically, but it's hardcover WildStar notebook. And the thing on the right is actually a booklet of, for lack of a better word, they're like WildStar postcards. They are really, really neat. And also we'll be including in that 2 lanyards. I forgot to take pictures of those, but 2 lanyards, those things that go around your neck and hold whatever. And then that bag right there, actually a little backpack bag. So when you get, you stuff it all in a bag and wear it around if you want in one of your t-shirts. That's what we will be auctioning for the Extra Life charity. So obviously we'll be advertising that. I hope everybody reaches deep for the children. Obviously children are important to me, and you know, that's what we'll have. We'll be talking more about this throughout the week on forums and Facebook, and whatever social media we can, because the more we talk about it, the more people want to throw a bit in there, the more money we make for Extra Life for the children. Hoorah!
Sounds good.
Very good. Very nice.
So y'all got that. Next Thursday, 7 p.m. Central Standard Time. At the end of the cast, we'll be running a live auction for charity, Extra Life. Well, guys, that's all we have for tonight. This has been Steelheart, Creed, and Soul Guardian with Debuffed WildStar News. Tune in tomorrow, 6 p.m., Friday night, to watch the T-Bone Show. If y'all haven't seen T-Bone, he's got something special planned tomorrow night at 6 p.m. Central Standard Time. He's going to get in there with some other people. They're going to kill each other. It's going to be really interesting. So make sure to check out that live stream. And then Saturday night at 6 p.m. for anybody who's watching Star Citizen, make sure to check out the Star Citizen Report. We'll have a special guest. Will be Geek Domo, hosted by Memo and Whoopin' Yo. And they'll get on there and they'll be talking Star Citizen. And if y'all haven't been following that game, it's a pretty amazing game as well. Also, just an FYI to everybody, our EverQuest Next cast, starting the first Thursday in November, will be moving to a November slot at 8 p.m. CST. So we'll be running back-to-back cast on a regular basis. Makes it a little easier for our producers that way. Gives them a little breathing room. So guys, it's been a pleasure. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Had a good time.
And everybody, we'll see y'all